Have you ever wondered why humans used to sacrifice animals? Me neither, but I'm gonna tell you anyways so we can both know what our ancient and not so ancient ancestors used to do. For fun, I guess. There were like one or two really good reasons why we used to sacrifice animals, but there are also some very terrible reasons why we used to sacrifice animals. And we're gonna go over them both. Now we're gonna start with, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that is a perfectly sound reason why we used to sacrifice animals. 2, how do I not be part of the human race anymore? The most mild one is when we used to observe the winter solstice. We've been doing this for about 10,000 years or a little bit more. But when we observed the winter solstice, we used to have a celebration where we would sacrifice all of the livestock and eat them during the middle of winter. Now this made a lot of sense for a few reasons, one of them being food scarcity. Food scarcity was a big thing, especially in the winter seasons. We would kill animals and then eat them, so that way we didn't have to feed them, but also so we could eat more food. Because you basically had two choices. You could kill the animal then, during this great celebration where you could logically justify it in your head at least. I don't know about logically, but you could justify it in your head to kill this animal. You would eat the animal to at least honor it, and then you would burn it, burn whatever you didn't eat, like the bones, the intestines, whatever, and then you would sacrifice that to the god you believed in at the time to hopefully bring you peace over the winter. So these sacrifices were technically putting animals out of their misery before the misery began, because otherwise they would have to watch them starve to death. And this is the best, most logical reason I could find on animal sacrifices throughout the human history that we know. So these terrifying ones, just as a precautionary warning, most of the terrible, disgusting, horrendous acts of animal sacrifices were done for religious reasons. So just keep these in mind. So back in the day, at least like 500 years ago, right? At least 500 years ago, there was a thing called blood atonement. And blood atonement was something you did when you committed a sin so horrendous that you couldn't make up for it unless you did something equally as terrible. Blood atonement is when you kill an animal and you wash your body with the blood to forgive you for the horrendous sin that you've committed. So if you've murdered somebody and everyone was mad at you for murdering somebody, you would take like an innocent little goat and you would kill it and then bathe in its blood to make up for murdering somebody. Now, if that doesn't make any sense to you, that means you're good. If it makes sense to you to do that, then please get some help. And the weirdest part about blood atonement is killing the animal wasn't a punishment. It's been written that it wasn't a punishment. Somebody did this because they just wanted to like be forgiven for their sins. It wasn't a negative thing. It was just like, okay, like you fucked up, so now you just gotta kill an animal and then wash yourself in its blood. That means people were happy to do it. People were grateful that they could kill an innocent animal and then wash themselves in the blood, because then that means that murder's okay. That's like fighting fire with fire, or declaring bankruptcy when you haven't paid your taxes in 10 years, or identifying as an e-boy and a Visco girl at the same time. It doesn't make any sense. Now that's pretty bad, but it gets a lot worse. The Aztecs had a lot of weird ceremonies. One of the ceremonies was to honor their sun god, where they would go and pillage other tribes that weren't part of theirs, and they would enslave them, take them captive, kill the women, and then they would sacrifice human sacrifices, because humans are an animal species. We're the human species. They would lay them on their backs, restrain them, cut their stomach open, reach into their chest cavity and pull their heart out. And they were so good at this, they could cut your stomach open and pull your heart out while your heart was still beating, show the sun god your beating heart, and then kill you. And then they wouldn't even eat the people afterwards. They would just throw them in these giant piles of where all the other sacrifices were. Can you imagine how many people you would have to cut their stomach open and then somehow pull their heart out before you figured out how to do it with their heart still beating? Although the Aztecs do sound like super badass Mortal Kombat characters, I do need to say that human sacrifices were way less common. They were still very common and prominent through human history, but we didn't sacrifice nearly as many humans as we do livestock. God, I hope my ancestors were only the ones that killed animals during the winter season because they didn't want to starve to death. Now this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to animal sacrifices throughout history and even present day, but I was just trying to find some of the worst ones I could find. Even today, there is still massive, useless animal sacrifices in different countries, which sucks because you think as a human species we would grow up and not just kill things because we can. That being said, if you guys want to see me sacrifice an animal on camera, if you want to see me go more in depth with certain sacrifice rituals from history or even the present day, I can do that. Leave a comment down below if you want me to go over those things. Give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, subscribe if you want more content like this, and thanks for watching.